Welcome back, everyone. Again, this is J.S. Bray with Mr. Bray Labs and another Inklings behind the scenes driving episode. My goodness, I'm sure this is probably, well, it's a lot more episodes than I have done driving, but I've done a considerable amount of driving this week. So I want to talk about an important thing that I think about often. I know it's kind of crazy to have this many things to muse upon in such a short amount of time. Well, the question is friendship. So, Inklings is largely about friendship, and I think that friendship and has been a cornerstone of importance for me because friendship to me has been the root of all relationship, including family. You know, I grew up with a large family. I have a lot of siblings. Um, I had a lot of fragmented parts of my life, but being around a lot of people was normal for me. But just because you are related to somebody does not mean they really enjoy your company. Don't Please just hear me out. Some people, they're best friends with their mom or their dad or their brother or their sister. And at times, I would say I was been pretty close with certain family members, specifically like um, sisters. Uh, I love my brothers. I was never super, super close with my brothers, just because there's quite the age difference. One of my brothers is 11 years younger than me, and the other one is 6 years younger than me. But anyways, overall, when you have siblings, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be friends. It means that you're going to love each other, hopefully, and you're going to be somewhat raised in a similar environment. Possibly not that similar, but nonetheless, you're related to each other. You're always family, no matter what. Even if you forget that you have a brother or sister or whatever, or mom or dad or whatever, there's a tie genetically that says, okay, we'll always be family. So I I think family is very important, but friendship is something that I've always really treasured because friendship is choosing family. It's the family that you have chose to have, people that you love on purpose. And I do believe if you're loving your family on purpose is important, and I mean it in this really the playful sense. But um, for me, friendships were such a cornerstone to so much parts of my life where I felt I have had friends that are closer than a brother, friends that are close as mothers, close as like father figures in my life. And so I like that. It's actually one of the reasons why I've always enjoyed church. This is not to mean that church is always this way. This is not to mean families are always without dysfunction. My goodness, it's probably normal for a family to be dysfunctional. It's probably abnormal for a family to be normal than it is for it to be dysfunctional. There's more, black sheep, so to speak, in your family than there is probably squares or normal sheep. So that's one of the things that I love about friendships is that if you are the kind of person that looks at friendship in a similar fashion as you do family, so, and this is the way that I perceive friendship, and this is the way that these characters in this story, they're friends like family are. They're stuck together, right? They're stuck together and they're different. So all the weirdness of a good old dysfunctional, normal, abnormal family, but yet they will themselves to love one another. To me, the healthiest families are ones that are absolutely weird, but they love each other regardless. That they have the cousin or the sister or the aunt or the person who has all these weird little quirks. And they're not just friends with each other so they can just have sort of the pleasure of pointing out how goofy the other is, but that they actually find their flaws to be features. They look at them as someone like, hey man, it's so great to have this person in our group because they see differently. So this is where I believe that friendship and the idea of familial relationships can bridge together in this series of Inklings. Because I love having friends. I'm always looking for friendship. There's just sort of a hunger that's been baked inside of me that I always find people interesting. I really do. Um, I want friends more than, and it's not that I want just a bunch of people admiring me. That's actually not what I think friendship is at all. Admiration is not necessarily That's like a fruit of like a really close relationship, but it's not necessarily the fruit of every friendship, so to speak. But the point I'm kind of getting at is that friendship is this purposeful desire to lean towards one another. So ultimately, friendship, in my opinion, is this sort of pure form of family. Um, you know, family is not permanent. Uh, I know that there are different cultural perspectives on this. I made a friend at the conference, and I truly do believe that him and I became friends. We spent several hours chatting and had a great lunch together, and it got me thinking because he proposed a really fascinating and troubling kind of question about how to kind of follow um, sort of his calling, and then in the context of his parents' expectation for his life. And this was a gentleman who was as old as I am, so it wasn't a little person. He was a mature, grown adult, well into adulthood, and very successful. And so um, one of the things that I thought about this is that, because of upbringing, because of perspectives, even though him and I had much in common, um, I thought in the sense, the context of sometimes following a calling in your life, and if it's in conflict to maybe culture or things around you, you can come into question some of these really big kind of personal convictions. Family is a very like strong structure, depending on your cultural upbringing, depending on your personal upbringing, really um, depending on all sorts of different variables. But family is very important. I don't question. I'm never going to undermine the significance of family. But what makes Inklings is such a unique show, and from my perspective, this is the author, creator of the show telling you why I think this show matters, is that friendship does not need to be um, with sameness. That making friends with people does not need to be your friends are like you. You can enjoy things, yes, you can, that are radically different than one another. For example, I've mentioned this in the past about the four main characters. There's five really, but the four main characters is Kafka, who's a beetle; Bronte, that is a worm, she's a worm; uh, Christie, which is a firebug; and lastly, Poe, which is kind of a personal fan favorite right now. Poe, he's a stink bug. And they're all very different. They all want to play. They all have a sense of wanting to play, but they all play differently. And they all have different styles of humors, and they all have different tastes in literature and culture and the way that they communicate with the world. But they are friends. They're friends, just like that classic 90s show that I still think holds up, is Friends. They're all different, but they love each other. And it's not just sort of friends calling them friends, sitting around and just sort of like tearing each other apart, which some sitcom tropes have a tendency to do that, where they just force people together so they can just tear into one another. Um, there's a certain show that I absolutely love, but it started to do that. This is not the 90s show Friends, but it started to do that, and it started to kind of like wear on me. I want characters to be different. Friendships should be that way. Friendships, you to make friends with somebody is to will the good of the other, to love this other person who thinks different than you, who feels different than you, and that the commonality that you have together is that that you choose to care about them. So that is really the last little like friendship kind of note I wanted to share today on my driving episode. Um, how do you make your friendships? Do you kind of just focus on sameness? Are you always looking for sameness? I challenge you to try to make friends with people who maybe enjoy certain things that you also enjoy, but ultimately they're different than you. And that's how you grow. You grow by being around people who see the world different than you, whether or not that is uh, radically different or gradually different. That being around people, having relationships, diverse relationships, really does grow you as a person. To me, I think the quickest way to travel the world is to listen to someone else's point of view. And thank you so much again. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day.